All right, guys, we are back. Amari Cooper tonight. So let's talk about his dynasty value. Dynasty market out there, the trade market. It seems like it's kind of assuming that Deshaun Watson's going to be missing a year or at least a sizable chunk of it. So that's how we're going to operate in these trades. Amari Cooper or the 201?
I'll take the 201 because I think there's a shot I get. I mean, I'm going to probably get Jahan Dotson or George Pickens there. And honestly, that you can't get that for him on the open market. So I'd take the pick if you haven't had your draft yet.
Yeah, he's gone. You could also get Deshaun White. You could also flip that 201 for multiple seconds and grab a couple of those second round guys. But yeah, that's about going price for a wide receiver 3 at 28 years of age.
How about Amari Cooper or Hunter Renfrow?
Renfrow.
I can't take Hunter Renfrow over Amari Cooper, can I?
I mean, Hunter Renfrow's season last year is about as good as any Amari Cooper year. And he's 2 years younger, just signed a contract. Should have.
I don't know if he's 2 years younger. I don't care what his age says. His hairline says otherwise. He's no less than 46 years old.
I'm glad you asked this one, Clay, because that is the type of trade that if you really wanted out of Amari Cooper, that's probably what you have to accept. I mean, he's been a good player. He's basically a wide receiver too. We've talked about him a couple months ago. And I don't think much has changed. He's been with an efficient quarterback in Dallas. He supposedly is going to have the same thing with Deshaun Watson, but probably not. But then you start comparing him to other veterans of the same age. You know, he's going to be 28, and you start throwing around names like Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, Allen Robinson. Go try to get any of those guys for him. Tried to buy and sell. The response when you're trying to sell has been, I'm out on any Browns pass catcher. And I think the market is evaluating that correctly. I mean, it's not, if it's Jacoby Brissett, it is the lowest volume and maybe the worst passing offense in the league this year. So you don't want anybody on the team. Eventually we get close to the season and you can send Jarvis Landry or Adam Thielen or those types. And people will be like, well, you know, yeah, they're 2-3 years older than Cooper, but he's done for 2022. So give me the one season. I think that's the type of deal you go and buy instead of trying to play in this market of like established veterans that are the same age.
If you're trying to sell him, how are you going about it?
You can't really use him as an enticing piece. He can be, I don't want to say throw-in, because it's not a throw-in, but he can be something that you add to a trade. Someone's teetering, like they don't want to give up Jalen Waddle for a singular 23 first. You're like, all right, well, how about I give you this guy too? And then they're like, oh yeah, definitely. Now I'll do it. You know, that's the best way I see going about it, just because he's not on his own. He's not appealing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're trying to sell him and you're trying to get back production and you don't want to add, you know, the first to the trade or something like that, I think you're in the range of like Christian Kirk, Hunter Renfrow. I'm actually okay accepting those trades if you want to get rid of Cooper. You're betting on maybe players that have a little less pedigree, but you can say, okay, they could probably produce in a short-term window similar. He's a guy I'll want to buy during the year if Deshaun's not there. And you can just picture the Browns offense just being absolutely dreadful to watch. And everyone is off him. But yet you bounce back next year. His contract's actually fairly reasonable compared to what the open market would be. So yeah, they could get out of Amari Cooper, but if he doesn't get hurt, he's just basically the same guy going into next year. You're going to want him. This is a guy that's basically going to bounce way back up if he has Deshaun Watson. So I probably don't want to do anything but try to sell for like neutral receiver production. I don't want to add him to a trade and give a 23 first to get Marquise Brown or something like that. Like I'm probably giving away the long-term equity there. But I do want to buy some Amari Cooper once Watson goes down and then people are out on him. Then I'm trying to get the trades on the buy side because I do think he'll bounce back. And I do think with Watson, he's probably right back to wide receiver 2 range next year with a good, efficient quarterback.
Honestly, I'd rather just add him to my roster. He's so cheap. And if I do add him to my roster, it's under the assumption that I'm never going to move him. Like, not for anything of value, because he's a 28-year-old wide receiver, even in the best of circumstances.
He's never had resale value, even when he's been good.
Even when he was good, it was debatable how good he was, and half the fantasy crowd hated him anyway. So now that he's an aging wide receiver that's going to probably have a poor at least half of the season, you're definitely never going to recoup any value on him. So if you're trading for him, just know that that's what, he's on your roster until you give him up for a fourth.
Positional pivot wise, would you rather have Amari Cooper or Rashad Penny?
I'd probably go Cooper, but I think you're in the range where if you can get Tony Pollard, that, if you can get a running back that's not worth a first, but is worth like trading one of those high seconds for, I'm fine doing that just from a construction standpoint. Kareem Hunt, already mentioned him. There's others that are probably in the same range. I know a lot of people love like Ramondre Stevenson. If you could get him in a third or something like that, like you can argue flipping your roster construction. It's just how low do you go? Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Amari Cooper?
That I could see. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I could see making that pivot because I could talk myself into, oh, well, they only brought in Ronald Jones and Isaiah Pacheco, so this is the year of Clyde.
Chase Edmonds or Amari Cooper?
I'll go Chase Edmonds.
I'm never going to take Chase Edmonds. You can't.
No, but those ranges of running backs, those are clear, like 60-40 guys or guys that don't have a ton of ceiling, but like you can easily see where they're RB2s. I'd almost rather have an RB2 over a wide receiver 4 that hopefully his value bounces back next year. Because Cooper, he's going to be 29 this season starts, which means he'll be 30 going into next year. You already know people are going to be off him next year to the point where, let's say, Baker goes to Seattle. I think you might be able to trade like Tyler Lockett for Cooper or Adam Thielen or Jarvis Landry if like Michael Thomas isn't coming back. Like you'll be able to get him for those types of receivers. So, but that's where his value is going to be next year. You know, he's going to be the 30-year-old, he's not that great type receiver. So
Cole Kmet or Amari Cooper? That's a 1.5 tight end premium.
No, that's not enough. No.
It's not enough. It's
for...
also the deal in like week 2 if Cole Kmet has one good game where you're not going the other way. You know what I mean? I would rather hold Cooper now, but just understand there's going to be a lot of windows to buy him for points.
Right. For
points where you're like, there's no way I would do that. And then after 2 weeks of good games, Shane will be like, I would do that.
No.
Not Cole Kmet. Anybody. What if Miles Sanders goes out and has 2 20-plus point games to start the year?
Well, obviously, yeah, because then he's going to be the running back 1 in the season. So that's just a given.
You get what I'm saying, though.
Yes.